Hey everyone. Today's NDE comes to us from Daniela Wesley. During her experience, she describes drowning before she saw her husband and her family moving on without her, and was given another chance with a new purpose. If you are new to the channel, welcome. I am glad to have you here. I narrate near-death experience from all over the world and release a new video daily. These videos are meant to bring hope to sometimes hopeless world, and to show there is indeed a life after death. If you enjoyed these videos, please consider hitting those like, subscribe and bell icons to be further notified of new content. To my returned viewers, welcome back. You know the drill. Sit back, relax, grab a coffee, or tea, and enjoy today's narration. The day was June 5, 2021, a Saturday. Ohio had a particularly stunning summer day. It's hot, not overly humid, sunny, and the sky is cloudless. It was my cousin's birthday. My best friend and her partner were visiting from out of state, and we were all going kayaking. A sizable contingent of family members and friends attended the birthday celebration. The rest of the group had already begun their journey down the river when we arrived at the river later than they had. Despite having made reservations for a kayak, which I had used a few times before this day, my husband and I were so late that they only had a canoe available. Despite having never canoed before, I was both excited and unconcerned. I quickly understood that canoeing was actually very different from kayaking as soon as we began traveling down the river. We experienced a few moments when we were seriously out of balance, and I felt unsteady. My husband was in the back seat, and I was in the front. We were sort of rushing to try to catch up to them because everyone in our family had started so much earlier. No one was wearing a life jacket, including me. We were informed on the bus ride there that we had to bring them out on the river with us, but it was up to us if we wanted to wear them. It was a small, shallow river. Even the bus driver cracked a joke about how nobody ever wore them but that they couldn't be held responsible for any mishaps. In a joking matter, of course, everyone laughed. For the first mile of our 5-mile journey, everything was mainly going according to plan. We nearly capsized a few times, but we were able to maintain our balance. Until we came across a current, that is. I have trouble remembering the specifics of what went wrong because it happened so quickly, but in the blink of an eye our canoe was turned upside down, and I was trapped underneath. It didn't take me long to crawl out from under the canoe, but the issue didn't stop there. I was screaming and fighting to get back up to safety when I inhaled water into my lungs. For a brief moment, I would stand up before being sucked back in. I hoped that someone would be able to save me or that someone nearby knew how to perform CPR when I suddenly realized that I was literally drowning and that I would have to fight for my life if I wanted any chance to survive. It is incredible how quickly my brain processed a myriad of ideas in such a short amount of time. Fighting got harder and harder as I could not breathe at all. I was freezing. I was essentially blind because I was unable to see anything. I could only hear the sounds of water, like what you would hear if you dipped your head under a swimming pool, and not much else. I started to think about my family at this point. I had a clear picture in my head of my husband picking up my dead body, the couple across the river calling an ambulance, my best friend learning the horror of what had happened when she caught up to us, and them having to inform the rest of the family a few miles down the river that I had died. Even now, I'm not even sure how I managed to think about so many things in a brief period of time, but I still recall it like it was yesterday. I witnessed my mother and siblings learning of my death, and for a brief moment, it broke my heart. However, I then experienced an overwhelming sense of assurance that everyone would survive and be happy without me. I found it hard to believe that I was going and that I wouldn't see my friends, family, or dog again. Why was this happening to me when I had so many plans for my life? I witnessed the brightest light of my entire life. I do believe I was traveling to the heavenly gate to meet our Creator at the time because it was a whitish-yellow color. Though I did imagine meeting them, I never did see any of my friends who had passed away. I don't believe I got that far before my life was miraculously saved, so I didn't see God, but I did hear Him. It seemed like an eternity, but it all happened very quickly after I heard a voice say, "It's not time yet," and before I knew it, I heard my husband screaming at me from a close distance, telling me that there was a branch nearby I could reach out and grab to keep me above the water. I was unable to see anything, but as I flailed my arms, the branch appeared. My body was at this point so weak and frail that I grabbed it for dear life and pulled my body out of the water with what seemed like superhuman strength. When I was able to breathe again, it was incredibly chaotic. I was coughing so violently and throwing up blood and creek water as I shook. I felt so weak and exhausted, and my chest felt so heavy. At this point, my husband threw me my life jacket and gathered up all of my floating belongings. He had to drag our canoe out and tip it to drain the water because there was so much water inside that it had almost completely sunk. After it had just about killed me, I realized I had to get back in that vehicle and still had 3 miles to go. Because I knew I had been so close to death and because I obviously did not want to die, this part of my experience was extremely traumatic. However, it is crucial that I emphasize that my actual NDE was quite peaceful. Once I saw the light, a sense of comfort came over me, and I knew that everything would be alright if the time came. I do believe I had an out-of-body experience, and as I re-entered that canoe for round 2, images and sounds of my family learning the truth and hearing God lingered in the back of my mind. Down the river, we eventually ran into the rest of the family, who were all shocked to see me and curious to know what had happened to me. They were all still dry, content, and having a good time, but I was completely drenched from head to toe, my face was pale, my makeup was running all over my face, and my outfit was dripping wet. I tried to explain it, but people laughed at me because I was still in a state of shock. Nobody got what I was saying, they thought I was being overly dramatic and remarked that the water wasn't even deep enough for me to drown. They didn't realize that I had been submerged for a while and had inhaled water into my lungs, but I was too exhausted to contest their assertions. I gave up trying to convince people of my out-of-body experience in NDE because it is still difficult for me to talk about, and it hurt me even more to be written off by my own family. Because it is already so traumatic and difficult to move on after, for us, not having support only makes it a million times worse. I decided to include this in my story to encourage readers who are reading it to never discount someone's experience if they say that it happened to them. It shouldn't take a death certificate for you to accept that this actually happened to someone. When you have no one to talk to, it is very real and very stressful. I made appointments with my PCP in the weeks that followed the experience. One was for her to inform me of all the signs to watch out for secondary drowning, and another was for the extremely high level of anxiety I was experiencing. For at least a week, every time I closed my eyes to go to sleep, I could hear water noises in my ears and would awaken feeling as though I was gasping for air. I was given a prescription to help me get through the nights, but I made an effort to refuse to take it. I didn't want to make the mental suffering I was already experiencing worse. Sadly, people still look down on and make fun of me for what happened that day, and I am still extremely afraid of getting back in a canoe or being near water. Overall, my experience was peaceful and traumatic. The best part of the experience was when I got to see what it was like to die because I knew that if I went on the other side, I wouldn't have to fight anymore and that the place I was going was so breathtaking, secure, and peaceful. Coming back to this life and then being ridiculed for having survived was a harsh reality. Nothing would have been amusing if a few extra seconds and a different result had occurred. Please, if a member of your family or a close friend tells you they had an NDE, believe them and console them. You cannot possibly imagine what they are going through. The final point I want to make is that following my NDE, my faith in God increased dramatically. He gave me this second chance because He saved me. My life is so beautiful, and I just heard His lovely voice tell me that it's still not my time. Because I still think I'm here for a bigger reason, I feel like I was given a second chance, and for that, I will always be grateful. Thank you to my parents and siblings for comforting me while I cried what felt like a million tears and for listening to me talk about how difficult it is for me to comprehend what happened to me that day month after month. Also, thank you to my best friend who has always listened to me from day one. I will always be grateful to each and every one of you, but most of all, I want to thank Jesus for saving me and allowing me to start living again. Compared to before June 5, 2021, I feel more alive right now. He saved me both physically and spiritually, and I will always share that testimony.